I got home at exactly 8:42 p.m. that night. I remember the time because I looked at the microwave the moment I walked in. It's this dumb habit of mine, always checking the time when I enter a room, like I'm subconsciously trying to document my own life. The hallway was quiet, and for a second, everything seemed normal. The lights were dim. The scent of something warm and spiced hung in the air. Cinnamon. Maybe? Nutmeg? That kind of cozy, manufactured warmth you only notice when something else feels wrong. But then I caught it. Underneath the baking scent, there was something else. Cologne. Heavy. Expensive. Masculine in that overly assertive boardroom kind of way. It didn't belong to me. I wear a light citrusy spray maybe once a week, and this wasn't that. This was something darker, muskier, sharper. I stood there in the entryway like an idiot for a moment, just breathing it in, trying to place it. I don't know why. I think I was hoping maybe I was wrong, that maybe it was in my head. It wasn't. Then I noticed the cufflink. It was sitting there like it had been forgotten in a hurry, right on the edge of the console table near the door. A single silver cufflink. No box, no pair. Just one. Polished, clearly not cheap. And etched into the face in small serif letters, J.M. I picked it up, turning it over between my fingers. No tag, no brand name. Just J.M. on one side, and a smudge, probably from someone's thumb, on the other. My mind immediately scanned every J.M. I could think of. Friends? Neighbors? Co-workers? Nobody came to mind. But then again, why would I know? It wasn't mine. I stood there, still in my jacket, keys in hand, cufflink now in my palm, staring down the hallway like something else was going to jump out and explain this to me. Nothing did. 2 wine glasses were on the shelf by the living room window. The floating one she always said was just for decor. The one she always warned me not to put anything on because it was too fragile. And yet, there they were. 2 long-stem glasses, each with red wine still in them. One glass was about half full, the other nearly empty. The empty one still had condensation on the base, the way it does after being held in someone's hand for a while. We don't drink wine on weekdays. That's her rule, not mine. I took a slow step forward, heart pounding now, and walked toward the hallway bathroom. That's when I saw the towel. It was hanging crookedly over the sink. Damp, fresh, maybe used 20 minutes before, if that. And it wasn't one of ours. Not from the matching beige and charcoal set we picked out from West Elm during last year's spring sale. This one was white, plain, generic, like something from a hotel. It was a small thing, but it felt loud in that quiet house. The more I looked, the more I noticed the misalignment. The slight open crack in the window. The faint trail of water droplets on the tile, leading nowhere. The dryer humming from the laundry room. Unusual for this time of day. Kelly? I called out, voice even but lower than usual. I wasn't sure what I was expecting. A few seconds later, she came out from the bedroom, hair damp, robe tied loosely at the waist, mascara wiped off at least partially. Her feet were bare, and she looked, caught off guard just for a flicker of a moment. Then the expression melted into something easy, practiced, warm. "Oh, hey," she said, smile soft but casual, like nothing was wrong at all. "You're home early." "Yeah," I said. Traffic was light. She tucked a strand of wet hair behind her ear and walked over to me like she'd been mitzvah night or something. "I wasn't expecting you until after 9. I wrapped up the project early." She nodded like that made sense, then noticed where my gaze had landed, the shelf, the wine glasses. "Oh, that," she said, laughing a little. "You'll never guess. John from 4B stopped by. Apparently, there's something weird going on with the building association contracts. He had some paperwork he wanted us to look at. Something about garbage pickup rates going up again. Anyway, I invited him in just for a few minutes to explain it. I didn't say anything. I just looked back at the wine glasses. She followed my eyes. I poured some wine. Just wanted his opinion on this new reduction I'm testing for the ossobuco recipe I've been working on. You know, the one with the rosemary and bay leaf? Thought it might pair well with a heavier red. She smiled again, but something about it didn't reach her eyes. "Isn't that the shelf you said we shouldn't use?" I asked. She blinked. Just once. Yeah, but I didn't want to clutter the kitchen. And he seemed in a rush, so I just grabbed the nearest surface. Honestly, I didn't think twice about it. It was all technically plausible. It really was. She was always hosting people from the building for one reason or another. She had a habit of over-explaining when she got nervous. And the wine, the robe, the towel. All of it could be brushed off with the right timing and just enough confidence. But there was a weird warmth in the room, like someone had been laughing in there a minute ago. The kind of energy you can still feel when you walk in after a conversation ends. I didn't believe in intuition until that moment, but something deep in my chest was ringing like a fire alarm on low volume. Did you get the contract? I asked. What? You said John came by with the building association contract. Oh, yeah, it's on the counter. She walked briskly into the kitchen and returned with a manila envelope, waving it like proof. See? Signed and everything. I just haven't had time to look at it yet. I took it from her, nodded, and set it down. I wasn't going to read it. I knew that. It wasn't the point. She walked past me to the bathroom and disappeared for a minute. When she came out, the towel was gone. The dryer buzzed behind her like it had just finished a load. She padded down the hallway toward the kitchen, hair drying in soft waves now, not meeting my eyes. I was just about to start something light for dinner, she said. Unless you're not hungry? I told her I wasn't, and sat down on the couch. Marley, our retriever, wandered over to me from the bedroom, tail wagging half-heartedly. He sniffed my shoes and then looked back toward the door, as if waiting for something or someone else. Kelly stayed busy in the kitchen, slicing vegetables, humming to herself. But her hands were moving faster than usual. Her rhythm was off, just slightly, and I realized I hadn't kissed her hello. Neither had she tried. That night, I lay in bed while she brushed her hair and read an article on her iPad like everything was fine. And I kept thinking about that cufflink. J.M. Maybe it was a client. Maybe it was nothing. But it had been left behind carelessly, confidently. Like whoever it belonged to wasn't worried about being found out. After the cufflink incident, I didn't say anything. Not because I believed her, but because I wasn't ready to hear whatever truth might be waiting if I pushed. And once that door opens, you can't close it again. So I did what a lot of people probably do when they suspect something's wrong. I watched. Quietly. Closely. Noticing everything I used to overlook. That's when the pattern started to form. It began with her schedule. Kelly's always been meticulous about her calendar. She color-coded everything. Green for her clinic shifts, blue for meetings, purple for social stuff, yellow for shared errands. We used a shared app that synced across both our phones. Mostly so we wouldn't double-book vet visits or dinner plans. It had been that way for years. But then suddenly, her shifts weren't showing up anymore. At first, I thought it was a glitch. Maybe she was forgetting to log them. But when I asked about it, casually while she was folding laundry, she barely looked up. Oh, I've just been jotting things down in my notebook lately. I'm trying to cut down on screen time. That would have made sense. If she hadn't also started sleeping with her phone under her pillow. And it wasn't just that. Her laptop, which used to sit open on the kitchen counter during dinner while she caught up on charts, was now password protected. A new one. The old passcode, the one we both knew, the one she used for everything, suddenly stopped working. I asked her about it once offhand. She didn't even pause. IT said we all needed to update for security reasons. Patient privacy, you know? Reasonable. Logical. Plausible. But still, my access to our household spreadsheet, the one we used to track expenses, savings, bills, disappeared around the same time. Weird, she said when I mentioned it. Must have been a sync error. I'll resend the invite. She didn't. Then there was her phone. It started going everywhere with her. Into the bathroom, the laundry room, even the backyard when she took Marley out. Always face down. Always silent. She used to leave it on the charger in the living room overnight, no passcode. Now it was locked, silent, and glued to her like it had state secrets on it. When I asked her why she changed her lock code, she smiled and said, "You're so paranoid. It's just habit. Everyone's tightening up their digital security." Maybe. But she also stopped sharing her location. I only noticed that by accident when I opened my own Maps app to check traffic and saw her little icon grayed out. And yet she acted normal. Almost too normal. Like she was trying to make up for something quietly. Dinners were suddenly more elaborate. Candles were lit in the evenings. Fresh cookies appeared on the counter every few days, like we were in some kind of seasonal Hallmark montage. She even started wearing makeup before bed. That one got to me. Kelly never wore makeup to sleep. She always took it off, said she hated the feeling. But now she'd reapply a little concealer, some blush, lip balm. Nothing dramatic, just enough. Enough to not look like herself if someone else was watching. And her hair. She used to embrace her curls. Wild, unfiltered, honest. But now she was blow-drying it straight almost every night. Even on nights she didn't leave the house. Even when we were just watching Netflix in sweatpants. She said it helped her relax. I didn't ask. I just nodded and logged the change. Another thing, her wardrobe. A new trench coat showed up one afternoon, still with the tag on. It was elegant, sharp, fitted, not her usual style. She used to make fun of those types of coats. Said they made people look like they were playing detective in an old movie. When I asked, she shrugged. It was on sale, and it's been getting colder in the evenings. Only it hadn't. Then there were her business meetings. Kelly's clinic usually did their catch-ups at the same diner downtown. Nothing fancy, just cheap coffee and predictable soup. But lately she started mentioning rooftop bars. Swanky places with names that sounded like they were trying too hard to be exclusive. She'd drop them in conversation like they were nothing. Yeah, we met at Solstice. You'd like it. They do this weird smoked rosemary cocktail. I looked the place up later. It had a dress code. And a reservation line booked out 2 weeks in advance. She came home from those meetings glowing. Not tipsy, just flushed, lit up in a way I hadn't seen in a while. She said it was the ambience, that it felt good to be out. But Marley disagreed. Our retriever used to lose his mind when Kelly walked through the door. Tail wagging, nails skidding on the hardwood, whining with joy. But lately, when she came in, he'd lift his head from the rug, sniff the air, and then get up slowly. Sometimes he wouldn't even greet her at all. Just linger near me, confused. One night, she walked in late, and he sniffed the doormat like it was foreign. Then he looked up at her, and I swear, he tilted his head like he didn't recognize her scent. It made my skin crawl. I started paying attention to everything. The receipts she'd crumple too quickly. The times she said she was at the clinic but didn't wear scrubs. The days she said she was tired but had eyeliner on anyway. And then there were the gaps. The hours she'd be gone, unreachable, the kind of silence that feels deliberate. One night, I went into the guest room to look for an old charger and noticed her gym bag in the closet. It hadn't moved in weeks. The towel inside was still folded. Her sneakers were clean, laces tied exactly the way they were the last time I had seen her go to the gym. But she'd said she was going twice a week. She also started humming more, like she was trying to fill the air with something light. She'd hum while she cooked, while she scrolled on her phone, while folding laundry. It wasn't tuneless, though. It was rhythmic, almost rehearsed, like a soundtrack she was layering over the unease between us. Once, while she was in the shower, I heard her phone buzz 3 times in a row. I glanced at it, face down, screen dark. She came out a minute later, towel wrapped around her head, and the first thing she did was grab it, hold the button, and swipe up without even checking who had texted. That was when I knew. Not that she was cheating, not for sure, but that something was happening. Something she wasn't telling me, something I wasn't part of. And that's when the map started to draw itself. Each tiny lie, each deflection, each changed habit. A little red pin on a growing web I couldn't ignore anymore. 1 pin is nothing. 2, maybe a coincidence. But 20 pins make a pattern. And once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. It happened on a Thursday night. Kelly had mentioned earlier that week that she'd be pulling an overnight shift at the clinic. Something about a staffing shortage and a post-op patient who needed monitoring. She told me over breakfast like it was no big deal. Her voice smooth, her eyes steady, sipping her coffee without a flicker of hesitation. I nodded, pretending to believe her. We had reached a place where every conversation felt like a test. Every sentence a thread I could pull to unravel the next lie. She left just after 6:30 p.m. That evening, wore her navy scrubs, hair tied back tight, no jewelry, no makeup. Said she wouldn't be home until noon the next day. I watched her from the window as she got into her car, waved at me with the same easy smile I used to love. The porch light flickered once as she pulled out of the driveway. And for a moment I doubted myself again. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I was losing it. Then, around 7:05 p.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown number. No message, just a photo. For a few seconds, I just stared at the screen, not processing what I was seeing. Then I opened it. The image was grainy but unmistakable. Kelly, sitting on the edge of a bed in a dimly lit hotel room. She was wearing a white robe, her hair loose around her shoulders, styled, curled, like she'd just come from a salon. Her legs were crossed, and in her hand was a wine glass. On the nightstand beside her sat a familiar bottle, our favorite Pinot Noir, the one from the weekend trips to Napa. There was another hand in the frame, male, resting on the mattress beside her. The man's wrist wore a watch I didn't recognize. Gold, sleek, and the cuff of his shirt was monogrammed J.M. A silver cufflink caught the light just enough for me to see it clearly. The same cufflink I had found weeks ago on the console table. For a few seconds I couldn't breathe. The photo had the casual and asterisk Macy of something not meant to be seen. A quiet moment between two people who thought they were safe, private. The angle suggested it wasn't taken by either of them. It was voyeuristic, intentional, a trap. I stared at the photo again. The room was small, modern, with a navy blue headboard and industrial-style sconces. I recognized it. It was the boutique hotel downtown, the one with the exposed brick and skyline views. The one that charged nearly $300 a night and marketed itself for exclusive executive experiences. I opened our banking app, hands shaking, and pulled up our joint credit card. There it was. A charge for food delivery from a high-end service. Timestamped 37 minutes ago. Delivered to that hotel. I clicked on the transaction. The delivery note read, Room 714. I stared at the number, then at the photo again. I didn't know what to do. I felt everything and nothing all at once. Like I was floating above my own body, watching someone else's life fall apart in slow motion. 10 minutes later, I got a second message. Same number. This time, it was just text. You deserve to know. That was it. I sat on the edge of our bed, phone in hand, blinds still open, staring out into the dark street below. The photo was still pulled up on my screen. Kelly's expression was calm, relaxed, almost serene. She didn't look nervous. She didn't look guilty. She looked at peace. That was the part that broke me the most. I stared at her face and realized she wasn't pretending in that moment. That version of her in that hotel room, wrapped in a robe and sipping wine with someone else, that was real. That was who she had become when I wasn't looking. I needed to know who had sent the photo. The number wasn't saved. I tried calling it straight to voicemail. The voice on the other end wasn't Kelly's. It wasn't a man's either. It was a woman. The voicemail was generic, but the tone was clipped, businesslike, almost robotic. I tried calling again. Same result. Then I got a third message. This isn't the first time. Check your calendar history from February. Then your Lyft receipts. That did it. I opened Kelly's archived calendar. She'd cleared a lot of it in recent weeks, but I'd set up auto backups months ago, when we were trying to track vet appointments and house bills. I had access to the old files. February 18th. Team strategy offsite, full day. Don't wait up. I cross-referenced the date with our Lyft business account, the one we used for tax write-offs. She'd used it that day, 5:32 p.m. to 5:49 p.m. Drop-off. Same boutique hotel. Room number wasn't listed, but it didn't need to be. She had lied months ago. Smoothly, casually, with the same smile and steady voice she used every morning. I scrolled further. Another one in March. One in April. All labeled as offsites. All with charges to food delivery services or drink receipts. Some billed as executive entertainment on our shared card. Each transaction had the same pattern. Friday evening. High-end vendor. No return trip listed. Each time, the card would show one larger charge and then nothing for 12 hours. She never even tried to disguise the trail. She probably thought I'd never look. It was all right there. I leaned back on the bed, letting the phone drop onto the blanket beside me. It wasn't just the betrayal. It was the effortlessness of it. The quiet precision. The sense that this had become normal to her. A parallel life running alongside ours, intersecting only when convenient. And still, something about the photo nagged at me. The angle. The timing. This wasn't a random exposure. This was calculated. It wasn't until I looked at the metadata, an old habit from my photography days, that everything locked into place. The photo had been taken exactly 41 minutes before it was sent. It had location tags. The hotel name was embedded in the file. The sender hadn't stripped it. That wasn't carelessness. That was intent. I sat back up, reread the message. You deserve to know. Not, I'm sorry. Not, she's mine now. Not even, she lied. Whoever sent it wasn't gloating. They were trying to hurt her, which meant one thing. This wasn't from her lover. It was from his wife. The morning after the photo came felt like something out of a slow-burning nightmare. Everything looked the same, but nothing felt right. The sun rose through the curtains in that gentle, indifferent way it always did. Light spilled across the hardwood floors in neat golden strips. Marley sat by the back door, waiting for someone to let him out. The coffee maker blinked its usual time, oblivious. From the outside, our house looked calm, peaceful even. I still made 2 cups of coffee. I don't know why. Habit, probably. Something primal. My body moving on muscle memory while my brain tried to catch up. The act felt rehearsed. Pour, press, wait. It was like watching someone else's hands do it. I didn't drink mine right away. I just stared at the steam rising from both mugs and wondered how many other mornings she had sipped coffee in this kitchen after spending the night somewhere else. She walked in at 7:12 a.m. Keys jingling. Door closing gently. Shoes off quietly in the entryway. She didn't look surprised to see me. Kelly was dressed down. Black leggings, oversized sweatshirt, no makeup, hair tied back in a loose ponytail. The same version of herself she'd always used for Sundays and sick days. Except today it felt curated. Like a costume designed to whisper. See? Nothing happened. She walked to the fridge like it was just another morning, pulled out oat milk, and asked, "Did you sleep okay?" I didn't answer. I just slid her mug across the counter. She smiled softly, like that meant everything was fine. "Thanks," she said. No questions. No explanations. Not even the nervous energy of someone covering a lie. She was calm. Still. Measured. The performance of normalcy was flawless, and that made it worse. We stood in silence for a while. She sipped her coffee, scrolling through her phone with the casual disinterest of someone checking the weather or glancing at headlines. Her robe from last night was draped over the back of the couch. The dryer buzzed from the laundry room again. Marley didn't go to her, he just sat by me, waiting. That same morning, I started pulling threads. I didn't say a word to her. I didn't accuse or confront. I wasn't ready to fight, but I was ready to prepare. The first thing I did was open a private checking account at a different bank. Quietly. Online. No paper statements. I redirected my paycheck, removed my name from our joint auto-pay subscriptions, and took my cards off the Apple account. Then I backed up everything: emails, spreadsheets, photos, cloud drives. Anything with a date, a file path, a number. Our lives had always been an open book. One account, one cloud, one shared rhythm. She had relied on that. She had forgotten that I built it. I remembered the photo sync, the one she set up months ago when her old phone was dying. She'd never unlinked it. Her photos were still syncing to the backup drive on my desktop computer. Every snap, every folder, every album. Most were innocuous. Receipts, screensh**ts, dog photos. But then there were the hidden ones. A folder marked quarter close. She must have thought the name would deter me. It sounded like budgeting nonsense, something I wouldn't bother opening. Inside were hotel room selfies, wine-stained lips, mirror sh*ts in dimly lit rooms with abstract art and white comforters. Some were time-stamped during off-sites, others during late shifts. She never once looked like she was in a rush. Some of the files were labeled with names like L.A., Trip 2, and Park Lane Q1, but the metadata told the real story. Most were taken locally: boutique hotels, short stays, same-day check-ins and check-outs. I traced 3 of the rooms back to a place 15 minutes from our house. Not work-related, not even discreet, just convenient. I didn't rage. I didn't cry. I just kept going. One tab open, then another, then another. I pulled the receipts from our shared folders, looked through the parking apps she used, checked our dog walker history. Kelly had claimed to be home several nights when she hadn't booked him. Marley had been walked anyway, sometimes at night. I found one confirmation text from a service she'd used just once. One time, for a walk scheduled at 10:15 p.m. The night she said she'd gone to bed early. I opened my email, searched hotel. Dozens of confirmations. Not under her name, but all forwarded through her inbox from someone named J.M. One even included a room service receipt with the note. Read, as always, no fish, midnight. It was like peeling wallpaper and finding a second wall underneath. Darker, messier. Full of names I didn't know and instructions I was never meant to see. I took **ts of everything. Later that day, I changed my computer password, cleared her fingerprint from my phone, and set up 2-factor authentication on every financial tool we'd ever shared. She didn't notice, or she pretended not to. By noon, the house smelled like cinnamon again. She was baking. Something about that made me angrier than anything else. The forced softness of it. The curated domesticity. Like she was lighting candles and kneading dough in an attempt to smother the truth. Like if the air was warm and sweet enough, it could erase the scent of someone else's skin on her body. She put on jazz, the kind with no vocals, and folded throw blankets into perfect thirds. She hummed while wiping down the counters. She wore that same day-off sweatshirt and smiled when I walked past. Like this was all part of a cozy little life we were building together. I didn't speak. That night, we ate dinner in front of the TV. She laughed at something on the screen. I don't remember what it was. I remember watching her face more than anything, watching her laugh like someone who had nothing to hide, like she hadn't been unfaithful in both body and routine. I didn't eat much. She asked if I was okay. I said I was tired. She kissed me on the cheek before bed, same as always. But I stayed up after she fell asleep. I lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling, listening to the low hum of the refrigerator and the occasional sigh from Marley curled at the foot of the bed. I had all the proof I needed, but I also had silence. And it was that silence, hers, mine, the house's, that hurt the most. The lies didn't scream. They whispered. They whispered through clean countertops, folded laundry, damp towels, careful recipes, and coordinated schedules. They whispered every time she blinked too slowly when I asked a question. They whispered every time she touched my arm but not my eyes. They whispered through the scent of cinnamon and vanilla and hotel-grade shampoo. And I listened to all of it. I heard it clearly now. I left the next morning without a word. Packed a small bag, just essentials. Jeans, t-shirts, laptop, chargers, toiletries, and drove out to a roadside motel 2 towns over. One of those quiet, beige places sandwiched between a gas station and an abandoned diner. No questions asked at the desk. Cash accepted. The kind of place that's too quiet to care. I told Kelly I was visiting an old friend. A sudden trip. Just needed a couple days to clear my head. She didn't push back. Didn't even ask who the friend was. She just nodded, said, "Okay, drive safe," and kissed me goodbye like we were still something real. I stayed at that motel for 4 days. Didn't sleep much. Mostly read the same news stories over and over. Took Marley on long walks near the empty parking lot. ate fast food out of paper bags while my inbox filled with spam and silence. I didn't text Kelly unless she messaged first. And when she did, always short, polite updates like, "Hope you're doing okay," or "I left your vitamins by the coffee maker." I answered with the bare minimum. I wasn't trying to punish her. I just couldn't fake being okay anymore. On the fifth morning, I drove back home. The house looked exactly the same. Too clean. Too intentional. As if someone had taken a photo of marriage and tried to recreate it from memory. Candles were lit in the hallway. There was soup on the stove, her mother's recipe, the one with bay leaf and leeks she only made in the fall. The throw blankets were folded again. Soft jazz played from the Bluetooth speaker in the living room. Marley's toys were lined up in a neat little row near his crate, like they'd been groomed for a catalog shoot. Kelly was in the kitchen, wearing a sweater I'd never seen before. Pale gray, oversized, likely expensive. She looked up when I walked in and smiled. "You're back." "I am." She didn't ask where I'd been. I didn't offer. Our conversations after that were stripped down to function. Like colleagues managing a shared project neither of us had the heart to quit. Groceries, Marley's flea meds, the water bill, no more morning kisses, no late-night shows, no real eye contact. We were careful, civil, dead. The confrontation never arrived in a single moment. No fight, no explosion, no thrown words or slamming doors. Just erosion, quiet and constant, like water under a floorboard. You don't notice until the whole thing sags under your weight. The first hard confirmation came not from her lips, but from her math. I was in the office one night, trying to pull receipts from our tax folder. We'd always shared access, but when I clicked into the shared drive, half the files were gone. Renamed. Moved. Some had been labeled with odd codes, QTR_MKT_7A, and REAM_Klein_2024 Q2. But when I opened them, they weren't tax documents. They were expense records. For boutique hotels, fancy rooftop dinners, luxury rideshare trips, some dating back months. I opened one spreadsheet titled Marketing Offsites. It had columns for dates, venues, charges, and partner notes. One name stood out. Again and again. J.M. His name was always abbreviated. But the cufflink, the one I still had, tucked in the back of my drawer, made it impossible to miss. His initials were on almost every entry, sometimes in the client-host column, other times under shared expense. Several weekends overlapped with days Kelly had claimed she was sick, or attending wellness seminars, or visiting her cousin in Connecticut. Each one now had a line item and a charge to our card. I dug deeper, used an old Wi-Fi log from the router backup. I'd saved them last year when our internet kept dropping. Found devices that weren't mine. One labeled Pixel JM, connected to our home network on at least 4 different nights, none of which Kelly was supposed to be hosting anyone. She had wiped the active logs, but she'd forgotten the backups. She had also deleted a few photo albums from her phone. I noticed because the sync backup flagged errors. Album removed, it said. Duplicate files found in hidden_folder. I followed the link. There they were. A sequence of selfies in the mirror. Not explicit but int asterisk mate. Taken in hotel rooms. Bed sheets behind her. Same robe. Same wine. Different lighting. Different dates. I didn't recognize the rooms. But the file names said things like MarketView_Suite_0329 and Room_917_M. Some were duplicates from the quarter-close folder I'd found earlier. What broke me wasn't the photos. It wasn't the receipts. It wasn't even the quiet precision of it all. It was what she chose to delete. Because those gaps, those missing days, those wiped logs, those erased albums, they told the truth better than anything else. She had curated her betrayal like it was an art form, kept some, deleted others, as if she believed she could sculpt the narrative after the fact. But she forgot I knew her. I knew her enough to know when she wasn't looking me in the eye. One night, I noticed a familiar hotel name pop up in our transaction history again. The same one from the photo. The boutique downtown. The charge was small. just room service. But it had the same delivery note. Read, no fish, midnight. She'd used our card. Again. That same evening, I walked into the bedroom while she was folding laundry. She looked up and smiled. Just slightly. "How was your day?" she asked. "Productive." "Good." She went back to folding. I sat down at the edge of the bed and watched her for a long moment. "You forgot to unlink the backup drive," I said. Her hands froze mid-fold. She looked up, lips parted slightly, but said nothing. "I saw everything," I added. "Even what you tried to erase." She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Her expression didn't change. No guilt, no tears, just a slow, sinking awareness that the performance was over. And still she didn't speak. She sat down on the opposite side of the bed, folded her hands in her lap, and stared straight ahead. That was her confession. No denial, no apology, just silence. I stood, walked to the doorway, and paused. "I won't ask why," I said, "because I don't think you even know." She still didn't speak. That night, I slept on the couch. Marley followed me, curled up at my feet like he had known this would come long before I did. In the morning, she acted like nothing had happened. Toast, coffee, oat milk, sliced fruit, quiet humming. She didn't mention the night before. Neither did I. And that was the confrontation. Two people in the same room, pretending the silence wasn't louder than any scream could ever be. An anonymous email arrived. J.M.'s wife. She exposed everything. Hotel logs, fake marketing meetings, even security footage of him entering our building. Turns out Kelly wasn't having an affair. She was living a second life. Different names, locations, carefully hidden bookings under courier. This wasn't spontaneous. It was strategic. A double life played out in plain sight while I made her coffee every morning. I left a flash drive in her planner, dates, photos, charges. No note, just facts. Then I moved into a quiet rental by the lake. Sent everything to her firm's compliance team. Within a week, she lost her job and the client. The house stayed hers, but felt abandoned. I didn't block her. I didn't need to. I had the only thing I wanted. Peace. No more lies. No more scent trails. Just the sound of water, wind, and finally, my own breath.